On the foreign affairs situation, this one actually could be looked at either way. It basically is global warming. What should the United States' role be in trying to resolve that question and dealing with other nations? Mr. Plessner?
No, well,
Excuse me. Mr. Ball.
Tom, on global warming, and I think all the scientists, or 95% of the scientists, say we have global warming. I think, or going to have global warming. I think our position in the United States is we should lead the world, but what we really need, we can't lead the world in global warming until China, India, Russia, those major countries in the world agree with us on regulations. So I think we've got to sit down with those countries and come to an agreement on regulations. It just won't do for us to have our regulations and the rest of the world continue to pollute. So that's what I would do, that's what I would urge whoever the President of the United States is to do, is sit down with the other countries and we'll lead, but we've got to have them involved also.
Mr. Page?
I do not believe that we have man-made global warming in this country or in this world. If we did, Gordon Ball brings up a good fact that China would definitely be the cause of such. But what we have is a climate that we've always had on this earth that has created deserts and various conditions across the globe for whatever amount of time the earth has been here on this planet. And I believe and I maintain that God is in charge of the weather, and it is what it is. And you can turn to your meteorologist and find out what it's going to be that day. But to have a war on climate change, as our Pentagon is waging, is asinine, and it leaves us vulnerable to the real enemies of the state.
15 seconds.
I will end the current condition of listening to those with liberal arts degrees, and I will turn to real scientists who say there is no global warming.
Well, as much as it pains me, I agree with Mr. Ball that what we do by ourselves is a moot point until we get the other industrialized nations on board. And whether global warming is man-made or an act of God, I don't know. I know this much, the weather's changing. That I think we all can agree on. I remember as a kid in Illinois, we'd have snow every winter. That doesn't happen anymore. But I do know one thing that's bad about this global warming. Somehow, over the last few years, they decided to figure out a way to attach carbon credits. Anytime you try to attach money to something, you're leaving a window open for someone to corrupt it. And that's exactly what's happened. I'm all for saving the environment. Let's use some common sense. But when they start charging us carbon credits on using a wood stove or the age of our car, all they're doing is collecting money off us again for something that may or may not actually exist. Thank you, folks.
Mr. Emerson?
I'm guilty. I'm guilty. I leave a carbon footprint. I'm sorry. Eat less meats. What is it? Don't drive, walk more. I was looking at the information on the website, and it's like, they have all these, turn your appliances off when you're not using it. I'm afraid my refrigerator food might get a little spoiled if I did that. This is something that I have to agree with Danny on. You know, I don't believe that we have global warming. And I really don't think that we can do a whole lot about eliminating any kind of gas emissions. But I know this, car manufacturers have addressed this issue with at least starting to develop for several years now, cars that are half electric. That helps.
Well, again, I do not believe in global warming. The Bible says that there will be plant time and harvest until he comes. That's good enough for me. So I do not believe that they'll ever turn it out where that we will be frozen out or burned up, either way. The weather, if you go back years, you'll see the weather follows a pattern, and we do have bad time. I can remember back in the 40s when Texas had a storm that blew dirt all the way into Tennessee. So things like that is going to happen. We, the people, it depends on how we live. If we live for the devil, then we're going to get devil treatment. If we live for the Lord, then we're going to be treated all right. So I think, like I say, it's just something that for more money to build stuff that where the government can get more taxes.
James?
Look, folks, you two are going to get old, okay? And when you do, you're going to remember back in the day when it was the hottest day you ever saw. Politicians were all honorable, noble men at every turn and walk of life. The money was good, the bills weren't outrageous. These things are going to be the way they are, and you're going to remember it through the rose-colored glasses of your youth or the way you chose to perceive it. When it comes down to actual global warming, I feel like we do need to be the leaders. We do need to show that we do it, but we need to do it on an individual basis. Don't throw that trash out the window. Take it home and put it in the garbage. You don't need a government to mandate you do something when you should take responsibility for yourself and do it. Just because China or India or one of the other countries might do more doesn't make it right. My mother always said, 2 wrongs don't equal a right. Be responsible for yourselves. Don't make the government step in and charge you. Thank you.
Mr. President?
It's important that our decisions are informed by good science. Anecdotal evidence just leads us places, it doesn't give us the answers. I think if we're going to bring the world together on this issue, because it's very complicated to get people to agree, is that we do voluntary load limit analysis for each country. So each country looks at how much they're putting off and what's a reasonable amount that they can start reducing the greenhouse gases that affects our climate. You can't put something in water and not affect it. Anything you put into the air affects it. So just keep that in mind. It's important that we share our green technologies as they develop. Like someone mentioned, there are electric cars that are being developed. There are a lot of ways to reduce greenhouse gases that save us money, that improve our economy. So those are no-brainers that we should follow anyways.
And I'm reminded, I should be giving each of you, if you have a response to something someone else has said, you could have 1 minute to come back if you didn't like what Gordon Ball said or Martin Pleasant said.
Hey, Tom, the one who answered the question first gets 1 minute to stop the bleeding in case he's in attack.
Okay, you follow?
I hope I'm not bleeding. I don't think I am. On this question, I don't think any of us are scientists, and we have to be guided, I believe, by scientists. And the great majority of our scientists say that there is global warming. And again, I think that we are the leaders of the free world. We should lead, but we can't lead without sitting down with China and Russia and the other countries that have emissions as much as we have.
And with that in mind, I did not do that on the first question. Mr. Pleasant, had anything that any of these gentlemen said on the minimum wage issue that you want to respond to what they had to say?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment about this idea that anybody has the ability to make $40 an hour. There are people in our society who are just limited. They really have limited abilities and can only do so much. I know these people personally. Their mental capacity is limited. That's why we have welfare state for people who are disabled. That doesn't mean they can't achieve the highest level. It just means that there are people who can only go so far. And so we shouldn't have barriers for them to go as far as they can. And that wage amount, so they're not taken advantage of, should be set at a living wage. I'd just like to respond to that.
Thank you.